Hey, something traumatic happened that changed my life. Check.
Alright, so, excuse me looking all scary looking. But, so, back in July of last year, I caught COVID. And I was forced to stay at home in quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, I was ready to go back to work and ready to send my kids back to daycare when they told me that my kids could not come back to daycare because they needed a release note. So, one of my kids had a cough, had a symptom, so they counted her as positive. My other child, however, did not. So I had to go get her tested in order to get a release note to go back to daycare. Well, come to find out, she was asymptomatic. She was positive with no symptoms. So I spent the whole month of July at home in quarantine. And then, going to the next month, I had texted my boss. Anyway, so the following month, I had messaged my boss, and I told him, hey, I'm ready to come back to work. We've got all of our release notes. My kids are going back to daycare. Everything's good and grand. Well, then come to find out that he actually replaced me and my other coworker, because my coworker put his 2-week notice in 2 days before I went and got tested for COVID. So he hired 3 new people to replace both of us. It was pretty much just me and my coworker that worked there. And I had noticed that I was taken off the schedule, and I asked him, like, hey, you know, what's going on with the schedule? What are my hours? What's my shift? Whatever. And he just kept telling me that he's trying to figure that out. Well, finally gets to the point where I'm pretty much fighting with the other boss over the COVID relief pay. And I ended up having to turn him into the Department of Labor. And then after that whole hassle, I decided that... So after sitting home for the whole month of July and halfway into August, I had decided that basically my work environment was very toxic. My employers were very toxic. They shared personal information with people who shouldn't have known that. I know some of the personal information that shouldn't have been shared. So I was pretty much basically forced to quit my job. One of the main reasons being that I texted my boss about my schedule and told him, hey, I'm ready to come back to work. That's all he said is, hey, let us know when you're ready. So I did. I texted him. I said, hey, I can start tomorrow. You know, what's my shift? What's going on? No reply. No response. Nothing. So I gave it 2 more weeks to see if they'd reach out. Nothing. So I went in and took in my uniform and my keys and told him that was that. Texted the other owner and told him, hey, I quit. So-and-so has my stuff. And he just replied, thank you. All right. So now we are into September, and I was actually working on getting my CDL. I was actually in the process of getting stuff approved through the state so they could help me pay for some of that. And I had actually started the process like in June. And then I caught COVID in July, so nothing really happened. And then my caseworker had quit. Got a new caseworker, so whole 9 yards. It was September, and I was still waiting, basically. So I wasn't really looking for a job at that time because the class was 40 hours a week for 5 weeks. And so I was like, well, I don't want to have to find a job just to quit because I can't do both. I'm good. I'm not that good though. So anyways, middle of September comes around and my dad decides, hey, let's go fishing. I always go up to this lake by your house, about 45 minutes from your house. Let's go fishing. So we went up to a place called East Canyon Reservoir here in Utah. And the first time I got on the boat, it took me about 30 minutes to get on it. I was deathly terrified. I don't know, just, I'm a big girl. The boat was not a big boat. So I was deathly terrified, deathly scared. It took me about 30 minutes to get me on there. And then, once I had a blast. I loved it. It even got to the point where we switched around and I was driving the boat, and I'll post videos later if I still have them, but towards the end of that first trip, I was doing donuts. It was awesome. I was having a good time, having a blast. Drove the boat by myself while my dad went up to go get the truck. Like, I had a lot of fun. It was very exciting for me. which brings us to the second trip. All right, so now we are into the last week of September. We decided to make this like a weekly thing that we would just go up once a week and go fishing on the boat. So it was actually September 29th, and it was a little windy. We get out there, still having a good time. He asks me if I want to drive. I'm like, heck yeah, sure. You know, I was excited. And so we get out to this, like, pretty much the other side of the lake from where you dock. And he had caught a fish, and he was so excited. He went to go grab the net, and the fish jumped off. Our luck. Anyway, so we decided, okay, this isn't working for us. Let's move spots. So we decided to move spots, and we go up more towards the middle of the lake-ish. Still towards that far end, but not so far. But anyway, so we're sitting there for a while, and we're not having any luck, and we notice that our boat keeps, like, swaying over to the shore, so I have to keep moving it back. Okay, so, it's a little windy. We're in a 12-foot fishing boat, and the wind keeps moving us over to the shore, so we have to keep moving back. Keeps moving us to the shore, so we keep moving back. So it got to the point where my dad was like, I'm going to throw down the anchor. Cool. So let's down the anchor. Everything's fine. We sit there, good 30, 40 minutes. Nothing. So here's where it gets scary. He decides, so I have anxiety. And so every time he moves or something happens, he always tells me, okay, I'm going to turn around and pull up the anchor. And I was like, okay, so I'm holding on to the sides of the boat for dear life. And, he does that. He turns around and he stands up and he's starting to pull up the anchor. And because of the wind, it was swaying the boat a little sideways, and he lost his balance and fell back on top of me. Well, now all of the weight is in the back of the boat where I was sitting, where the two motors are, where pretty much everything was, the battery. Anyway, so as I was saying before, that's where pretty much all the weight was. I was sitting back there. We had a trolling motor, a bigger motor, the battery was back there, the sonar, the whole 9 yards. And then next to me we had the snacks, and then we had a gas can that was actually up closer to him, but when he fell on top of me, all of the weight went like this. And that's pretty much what happened. The boat went under. I did not have a life jacket that fit me. My dad did have life jackets, but he was actually using them as cushions because the seats are hard. And so he pretty much grabbed some of them and was trying to use them to float as we were trying to grab random things that were floating on the water, like my medicine bag. He found his cell phone, and he later dropped it. He found his wallet, later dropped it. He was trying to put them in a fanny pack underwater, and they floated out. Sorry, this is the part where it gets super emotional for me, so bear with me. I'm already shaking. But anyways, so we were sinking, and I remember that I told him, I was like, we're going under, and he just yelled no, and I kept trying to push him off of me, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move from where I was sitting. So I have a bright green shirt that I bought because I was like, oh, well, we're going to start going fishing. I want a bright green fishing shirt, right? Because it protects your body from the sun. And I was wearing that shirt, and I have a medicine bag that is very colorful. And I was waving that in the air, screaming, help, 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 help. And there was only one other boat on the lake. That's the boat that saved us. And it was so scary. I kept looking at my dad. And anyways, so I kept looking at my dad. And he had skin cancer and lost half of his nose. And so his nose has been reconstructed from different parts of his face and his body, and where the reconstruction was turning purple, and his lips were turning purple, and I was trying to talk to him, and all he could do was make noise. He couldn't even yell, and that was so scary for me. And I'm glad that our boat went down where it went down, because if not, we wouldn't have made it. There were actually people on the shore fishing that called 911 for us, which we didn't even know. They watched the whole thing. She's like, that's the least I could do, and I'm so grateful for them. Anyway, so the people on the big boat that came over to help us, helped me get in, and it was so, like, I was so drained, I struggled to climb up the ladder. When he finally got me on the boat, he's like, I'm just gonna pull you forward and you can lay on this little bench thing. And he pulled me forward and I collapsed to the floor. Like, I didn't even have any energy to keep myself on there. And then, you know, I was like, if I'm here, where's my dad going? And so, I went to the floor so they could get my dad. We had to circle around him a couple more times. So he was actually in the water, like, probably 7 to 10 minutes, a little longer than I was, because they were trying to scoop up his medicine and stuff, and some of his items that were on top of the water with their net, on top of trying to circle around to get him. They were trying to throw a rope out to him, but with the wind, the rope was going in the wrong direction every single time. So anyways, they finally get the rope to my dad, and they pretty much pull him in with that, help him up on the ladder, get him in the boat. And then they circled around for a couple more minutes trying to grab other stuff, before taking us back to shore. And I remember, oh my gosh, a little TMI, but I had to poop so bad. When I get anxiety, I get what I called anxiety. It was great. Anyways, so I'm trying to tell them, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, I'm gonna poop my pants, you know, whatever, and they're trying to get us back to shore so quick. He, like, I don't know how fast he was going, but it seriously, like, I could tell we were going fast, and I was scared, but man, it seemed to take forever. Like, anyways, then we get there, and EMTs are up there waiting for us, and they do their checks of, like, what day is it, what's your name, what's your birthday, you know, where you're at, kind of thing. And anyway, so as the EMS lady, or EMT lady, whatever you want to call her, is walking with me to the bathroom to help me clean up and whatever, change my clothes, I ended up pooping my pants. But it's okay, because that's not the worst thing that happened to me that day. Anyways, after coming home and stuff, the next day I made a post on the Facebook page on, it's called the Utah Anglers Report, I believe. Whole bunch of fishing people. And, someone had reached out to us. His name is Paul, and he, has decided that he's going to try to help us get the boat up and locate it and stuff. As of today, it is still down there. It got too cold in the season. Anyway, so as I was saying, it got too cold in the season. He thinks he did locate it. He thinks that he found it on the sonar, but he wants to take down his, like, specialty camera or whatever, to see if he can drop it down there and see if he can see how it's, like, laying or whatever, and make sure that's really it before they dive on it. They are not professional divers. They just do this as a hobby. But I'm glad that they offered. I do plan to, like, pay them for their time and services. Like, in the original post I made on Facebook kind of explained the details of what happened, but it wasn't, I mean, I'm glad that he jumped in to help recover the boat, but my post was actually directed to try to find the 2 men that saved us, so we could repay them with, like, lunch or something. Anyways, our plans are for later in the spring when it gets warmer, they are going to try to find it and recover it for us, and I hope that that helps bring some closure. It may not, who knows, but it'll be nice just to, I guess, get some kind of closure with being able to see it again and whatever. This sucks. It's a scary situation. I actually haven't had to deal with, like, any of my anxiety and stuff since 2017, and this has brought it, like, back to square one. I've even gone to the point of going back to therapy. My 3rd session is on Friday because I feel like I can't handle life anymore, and a lot of it's directed around this accident. And it sucks because it's like, it was a tragic accident. Nobody was at fault. Anyways, I've decided now that I've made it this far into my story, I don't really have any plans right now. Just I plan to, I guess, update when we are able to recover the boat. But that won't be for a little while. Also, I wanted to note that when we sank the boat, we were at 55 feet. And when the snow melts, unfortunately, it will be closer to probably 70 to 80. But last time we were actually up at the lake and my dad went out on the boat with Paul, they measured it and it was at 45 feet. But unfortunately, I live in Utah and it does snow and rain here. And so by the time it's all said and done and we recover, it'll probably be like 70 to 80 feet deep. So, but that's that. I guess I will update when the time comes.
Stacy driving the boat with the big motor on. I think she's getting used to it. She's not trying to jump out of the boat. Come on, let's put some rockets into this.
I'm all the way up.
I know. Well, you can see her, but Stacy is driving my boat. And we're rocking and a-rolling. Ah, what a scary face. Like I'm on a horse. Huh? I feel like I'm on a horse sitting up here. Stacy getting wild on the boat. Again. Now she wants to do donuts. Do a donut, Stacy. Huh? Do a donut. Woo-hoo, look at that. Look at that donut. Look at that donut she's making. Whee! Okay, you go stay to the dock now. Huh? You go to the dock, and then why don't you play around?